One thing we all have in common are financial emergencies. Unless you have many millions of dollars, which most of us don't, this is something we're going to have to think about and actively prepare for. The common thought is that 3 to 6 months worth of expenses is what you should aim for. But is it correct? Or can we come up with a better number that's more accurate based on your specific situation? Because there's a lot of variation between my finances, your finances, and every Tom, Rick, and Harry out there. Since an emergency fund can be very personal, let's walk through how to think about the amount that you need to make sure that it's not overfunded, underfunded, or whether you even need one at all. While it's impossible to predict when each type of emergency will occur, we can at least start by defining the types of financial emergencies that could pop up. A common way to categorize them is in 2 different buckets. The first is an expense shock, where there's a sudden, usually unexpected increase in expenses. The most common are things like medical bills, home repairs, car repairs, or other family expenses. Expense shocks are difficult because they usually need your immediate attention and payment. Blowing out a tire or getting a front tooth knocked out aren't emergencies that you can just push off. They need to be dealt with right away. These types of financial shocks can drain your bank account extremely quickly or even throw you deeper into debt. If more than one of these emergencies happens at once, then it could compound a bad but manageable situation into a terrible one. The second financial emergency bucket would be an income shock. This is, of course, when you see a sudden and unexpected drop in your income. It could be due to job loss, being forced to take a lower paying job, a reduction in hours at work, losing business revenue if you're an entrepreneur, or the end of some sort of financial support that you receive, possibly from the bank of mom and dad. Based on research done in this journal article, income shocks are considered to be more impactful, harder to cope with, and perceived as a greater loss than expense shocks, even when they're the exact same dollar amount. Since income affects all of our expenses, we naturally consider it in a more broad sense. For example, if you lose 50% of your income, you start thinking about how you'll have to cut spending on entertainment, investments, groceries, eating out, and gas, rather than just 1 or 2 of them. Attempting to adjust your spending down on short notice if you've inflated your lifestyle too much can be a lot for some people to handle. I have seen it break people because they've gotten a little too high on their own supply. This is a side benefit of getting used to living below your means. Slight income fluctuations are less impactful. On the other hand, expense shocks are often viewed in a more narrow sense. Because they may only affect a single spending category, we tend to perceive them as less significant. A $4,000 home repair is less of a shock than losing $4,000 of your income. It didn't say anything about this in the research, but I'd also imagine that an income shock is perceived as worse since we have an expectation that a new chunk of income is consistently needed every month to pay our ongoing bills. With an expense shock, there are more avenues for workarounds like payment plans, shopping around, or possibly negotiating a lower amount. This happened to me recently. I hurt this area of my arm about 2 months ago, which has prevented me from doing most upper body workouts and a few other things. After going to see the doctor, they're sending me off to get a steroid shot right there to fix it. Now, the total amount I'll be paying out of pocket is around $1,100. If I didn't have all of the money for it, I'd imagine that they could set me up on some sort of payment plan which is less of a shock to my spending. Side note, even though I have the money to pay it all right away, I'm gonna try to negotiate a lower amount once I get the bill because the medical system is known for ripping all of us off. I'm gonna call them up and be like, oh, I can only pay $20 a month. Sorry guys, it's gonna take me 2 years to pay this off. So if you want me to pay it off sooner, give me a lower total bill. Is it gonna work? I don't know. We're gonna find out though. When you lose a portion or all of your income, it's not like you can just negotiate with someone to get it back. Hey guys, I know you fired me and I'm losing all of my income, but you think I can come in and negotiate making the same amount or even possibly more? No, it's not happening. If you are enjoying the video so far, then please help support my little dog Molly as well as this channel by hitting that thumbs up button. Quick pro tip, experiencing an income shock can really mess with you psychologically, which could easily spiral your negative thoughts out of control. If you ever experience some sort of income shock in the future, research has shown that the best thing to do is to remind yourself of personal experiences that made you feel successful and proud. They found that this sort of intervention helped reduce the psychological effects of financial shocks, which proved to be more effective in the context of income shocks rather than expense shocks. I bought my first FlexiSpot desk about 2 years ago and have been recommending them ever since. So when they reached out to sponsor this video, it was a no-brainer. I've got 3 of their standing desks that I use for various things. The first is used to work on my side hobbies, and the second 2 are their E7 Plus Premium Standing Desk, which is by far my favorite. The one is what you see me filming at right now, and the second is my everyday work desk in my spare bedroom. The E7 Plus comes in a wide range of sizes, colors, and materials to suit your personal style, match your room colors, and fit the space that you want to put it in. Since it can hold up to 540 pounds when stationary and 440 pounds when lifting, and can be adjusted from 25 inches to just over 50 inches, it's perfect for people and dogs of all ages. The E7's LCD keypad panel takes this desk to a whole nother level. There's a USB port on the side so I can charge my cell phone while I work, and with 2 taps, you can preset up to 4 different height settings to meet whatever needs you have. I also recommend getting a set of the W1 caster wheels so you can easily move the desk around your room. If you're ready to take a break from standing, FlexiSpot has you covered with their beautifully designed C7 Premium Ergonomic Office Chair. With the adjustable seat height, seat depth, armrest, and lower back support, this chair is perfect for when you're ready to sit up straight and get to work, or sit back, take a break, and relax. FlexiSpot has an amazing anniversary sale happening right now on all of their standing desks, which can meet your needs and budget. You can check it out using the link down in the description below. They're also offering a $30 discount on the C7 Premium Ergonomic Office Chair when you use the code C730 at checkout. Laying out all of your risks on the table and then assessing them one by one can help determine the amount that you should have in an emergency fund. I saw a chart in the past that did a really good job of laying out each risk, but I can't remember where it was from or what exactly it said, so I'm going to attempt to recreate it with my top 10 risks to consider. Apologies for not being able to cite where I got the inspiration. First, are you a dual income household? If you are a one-income household or single, then you might want to consider having an emergency fund on the higher end. If you were dual income but had to live on one, then would you be able to get by, and for how long? Next is job and income stability. Are you in a more stable or unstable career field or company? If you are in a commission-based job, then income has the potential to fluctuate a lot, which could be a reason to have an emergency fund on the higher end. Same thing with business owners. Also think about if you are in an industry where things are trending down or have the potential to be cut if economic conditions change. Or are you in a more stable industry where the likelihood of getting laid off is going to be low? Careers like teachers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, because everyone is sue happy nowadays, car mechanics, garbage men, or anything in the trades. Next, consider any side hustles and skills you have. If you already have side income, then could it be increased if you have either an income or expense shock? Do you have the ability to get another job fairly quickly to bring in some extra cash just to get by? Take stock of any valuable skills you have that could be traded for money if you need it. Also think about the contacts you have. Who do you have relationships with that you could reach out to in a time of need and say, hey, I'm actually looking for some work because I just lost my job. Do you know anybody, or are you potentially hiring? To give you some context around layoffs, which might help you calculate an emergency fund amount, I pulled some data from the Federal Reserve. It looks like on average between 1% and 2% of people get laid off every year, which is a lot lower than I would have expected. To be fair, the numbers might look a little different based on industry. When it comes to the median number of weeks unemployed, we are currently sitting at about 10 weeks. So if you have dual incomes or side hustles that can cover some of your expense during that amount of time, then you might not need as much set aside. Dependents are the next thing to consider. If you have more mouths to feed, then an emergency fund on the higher end would probably make sense, especially if you have kids. Those tiny monsters are walking, talking disasters waiting to happen. To go one step further, young boys are way riskier than young girls because we come out of the box with some sort of psycho gene built in.
Hey, Paul! Ah!
Anyone who has been around both at the same time knows exactly what I mean. Homeownership and vehicle condition are the next 2 risks to consider when deciding how much you need in an emergency fund. As a homeowner, it's good to understand the current life of certain big ticket repair items in your home and how much they'll cost to replace. Roof, Hot water heater, AC unit, and appliances are great places to start. I personally keep a little spreadsheet where I list out the last time these things were replaced. There's no way that I would ever remember that the last owner of this home replaced the roof in August of 2012 for $5,500 if I didn't have that info tracked somewhere. Same idea with your vehicle. What sort of condition are the normal wear and tear parts in? Think brake pads, tires, and things like that. I also suggest searching Google, Reddit, and other online forums for your year, make, and model to see if there are any common issues with the car that you own. This will give you an idea of potential problems coming down the line. Also look at your insurance deductibles to determine if your emergency fund could cover those. Think health insurance, home insurance, and car insurance. If you have high deductibles, then you're going to need a little bit more in your emergency fund. The amount of spending flexibility built into your personal finances is also good to know just in case you have an expense shock. If you can just cash flow it instead of pulling from your emergency fund, then that's less you need to have set aside. This is the route that I'm taking with the medical bill to fix my arm this week. I have the money in my emergency fund to pay for it all up front. But I've gone through and adjusted my budget to spend less in other areas so that I can just cash flow this expense shock. The last thing to consider is any additional funding that you can get a hold of to help cover any expenses if you have a smaller emergency fund. Think in terms of funding that's more liquid. Money in taxable brokerage accounts, or big ticket items that you can sell quickly to turn into cash. It's less ideal, but if you can sign up for a 0% interest credit card where you have 12 months to pay it off, then that's an option, but only as a last resort. After going through each of these, you might think that you need a freaking 100-month emergency fund. But that's not the case. The odds of a lot of these emergencies happening all at once is very low. Possible, but very low. And if you set things up right, then it's pretty easy to de-risk yourself a little bit. Plus, even if your emergency fund cannot cover the full cost of an emergency, having something on hand to reduce the leftover cost is better than nothing. You're never going to be able to prepare for everything, but you can get pretty darn close. Once you know how much of an emergency fund you need, where should you put it? Well, most people, including myself, would say to put it in a high-interest savings account or money market fund because it's safe, there when you need it, and outside of inflation, won't go down in value. But a few years ago, I read a blog post from someone who isn't a big fan of having an emergency fund in their savings account. I'll link the website in the description, but the TLDR is that he uses his index fund portfolio, credit card float, and/or a home equity line of credit as his emergency fund. He admits that not having a traditional emergency fund will sometimes backfire, but based on his simulations, the probabilities are low enough for him to take the risk. I get how it can be extremely tempting to want to invest your emergency fund when you're sitting there looking at a big chunk of money that's doing nothing on the surface. If you twisted my arm, I could make a case for a hybrid approach of investing a small portion and leaving the rest in a savings account or money market fund. This wouldn't be the case for most people, but different guidelines apply to different people. If you're someone who is a seasoned index fund investor, has de-risked your finances by paying off all of your bad debt, live below your means, and have side income, I could be convinced. To be honest, I kind of sort of invest some of my emergency fund if you consider my future car investing portfolio a part of it. And I'm even thinking about starting a future roof replacement investment fund since that'll need to be done in about 15 years. I don't recommend investing in an emergency fund for most people because it can be extremely risky. But at the end of the day, it's your money, and I'm not your daddy, so do what you want. Hit that thumbs up button before you go. I'll see you in the next one, friends. Done.